You're listening to Soul Growth with me, Jade Stoner. Here we go beyond performance and surface level success and return to your true source of power, you. When you come home to yourself, when you allow your soul to lead, you access a depth of peace, safety and self-trust that success alone was never meant to fulfill, without losing your edge, ambition or vision. You get to live a life that feels as eternally rich as it looks outwardly impressive, and it begins within you. Hello and welcome to Soul Growth with me, Jade Stoner. Today is a very special episode because it is the 5-year anniversary of this podcast. It's been 5 years of soul growth, and it's kind of wild saying that because I remember launching in 2021 like it was not that long ago. I've never actually shared this publicly, but I had a podcast prior to Soul Growth, but it was a secret. So I would record every week and I would put this podcast out, and I kid you not a soul knew that I had this podcast unless you found it in one of the podcast distribution channels like Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It wasn't even called Apple Podcasts then. And actually, I'm wondering, did Spotify even have podcasts? I don't remember. The point is, I had this podcast and nobody knew about it. And it used to get decent listens without me putting much in. And then I launched Soul Growth, and having it publicly out there, that was a whole different thing. Now, before I continue to get into this episode, I just want to say it is a really windy day here in the UK. And if you hear any weird noises in the background, it is the wind blowing through my chimneys. It's not a ghost. You're not hearing things. It's just wind howling down the chimney. So I remember hearing the name Soul Growth, and I remember feeling very strongly, very clearly inside of me that this was to be a podcast and this is what I had to do. Even though I didn't feel fully ready, I launched it. Partly because I'd had a podcast prior, partly because the idea for Soul Growth was divinely inspired. I thought it would be really easy. And if you'd have asked me then, 5 years from now, where are you going to be? I would have told you that I'd be on like millions of downloads, have made loads of money from the show, and I'd be like a consistent top 10 podcast. And that has not been the reality. In fact, I have spent many years building this podcast. When people say things like, I do this for free, or, I do this even if I wasn't getting paid for it, like that's literally been my podcasting journey so far. One listener gifted me money after my first episode, but other than that, I've not earned anything from my podcast yet, but it's cost me hundreds of pounds, and when we add in my time, thousands of pounds. Now, most people would have given up. They would have given up a long time ago. Maybe it is the Capricorn that I am, that goat energy of just keep on going. Also because I know it's a divine calling, even though it hasn't always looked and felt and been the way that I thought it would be or that I wanted it to be. I've kept going, and here we are, and celebrating 5 years. It's been more of a soul growth journey for me and my evolution than anything else that I've done professionally. I recently said this to you. There's this saying that starting a business is the greatest personal development lesson that you will ever experience. This is exactly that. You think that podcasting is easy because it's just you and a mic. There's no audience. But it's this weird kind of thing because it's just you, and there's very limited information that you can see about a podcast and its stats. It's not like social media when you can see how many views and likes and things like that and people commenting. You don't get that feedback. In order to get the feedback, somebody would have to leave a review or share it on their social media or send you a message. And I've had all of those things over the years, and it's just a very different landscape to any other platform. And when I started this journey, I was very attached to numbers. What I mean by that is equating low listener count to this must be rubbish, this isn't working. And it can be disheartening. And I believe that part of the reason that went on for so long it was a lesson for me to learn to detach from those numbers. Not having that gratification, for want of a better way of putting it, is why I would sometimes get to a point and then stop, because in the back of your head, it's like, what is the point? What is it all for? But I always came back. It's why I'm still here now, because of that almost delusional voice that's inside of you, that quiet whisper. It makes no logical sense. As I shared earlier, the podcast has cost me money. It has cost me time. I wasn't receiving the logical equivalent of that, like the return on investment. That wasn't there, but I kept going. Logically, it made no sense. There's a lot of people in a professional capacity, like a business coach, for example, that would tell you to stop or change strategy. But these years have been about far more than me having a podcast. It's been about far more than my listener numbers or how many people have left a review or any of that. One of the biggest lessons is detachment and detaching from those metrics. And what I recently got when I was doing some channeling is, who made the metrics up anyway? The metrics that we all buy into, that we judge ourselves by, that we compare ourselves to at some level, have been created by these companies. Let's take social media, for example. Social media, once upon a time, was just fun. You were just sharing your lifestyle. And then somewhere along the way, somebody decided more likes means it's better. More follows means it's better. People started performing for social media to create content, to get these likes and these views and these follows. And that's not what we came here to do. That's not what our souls came here to do. It's not why we started businesses. It's not why we're in the careers that we're in. We're in the careers that we're in because it is a calling on our soul. There are some artists, some singers that decide, yeah, I want to do that. Others, it's just something that they do, that they love. They find out they're good at it because it's what other people are telling them, and they just do it. The numbers are a byproduct of that. But when we attach ourselves to the numbers so deeply, they control us. When the numbers are up, you want to do more. When they're down, you want to do less, and you start questioning yourself, what's wrong with me? Did I say something wrong? Should I do something different? Should I dance more? Should I perform more? What do I need to do to get these people to like me, to listen, to respond to me? And that's not what it's about. What came through to me is that it's about the work. It's about the message that I share, not about how many listens I get or how many people give me a pat on the back. And it's taken me all of these years to get to that point and be detached to the point where I can show up without needing that external response. Because this is something that I know that I'm meant to do. I'm going to show up and I'm going to record whether one person listens or a million. Because that's what I'm supposed to do. It's a man-made design for us to have these metrics around stuff. And somebody decided somewhere along the way that higher metrics means better. But what if your message, if your song, what if your writing, what if your creation impacts one person? What if that one thing you shared and that one person listening changes the entire trajectory of their life? What if it saves their life? What if it saves them from a bad decision? That's where we need to start coming back to with our work and our creation. And that is very much part of the essence of this new era of success. It's not about solely numbers and metrics and return on investment and numbers and more money just for the sake of more money, but it's at the detriment of other stuff. That's not how it goes in this era. If that's all you take from this episode today, then I want you to hold that with you, and I want you to keep showing up, keep doing your thing. And if you're already very well established in your career or your project or your thing, remember this when you start something new. Just because one thing blows up, at some point when you start something new, you're starting from zero again. And the Capricorn goat energy, that grit, that's what you need to keep moving forward. I said this a couple of years ago after one of my podcast hiatuses, when I took a step back and then I came back. It doesn't matter how many times you fall down. I've fallen down on my podcast many, many times. And I used to judge myself and I used to beat myself up for it. But what I realise now is that it's not about how many times I fell. It was about the fact that I got back up. That sometimes I dragged myself, sometimes I crawled, sometimes I laid on the floor and just didn't do anything for however long I didn't do anything. But I always came back and I'm still here. A fun fact about podcasts. Most podcasts, actually, let me back it up a bit. First of all, podcasts are very popular these days. Everybody's got one, or at least it feels like that. Celebrities, authors, all kinds of different people. But as well as they're feeling like everybody has a podcast, there's also a hell of a lot of people that would love to start a podcast, that have thought about starting a podcast, that have told their friends and their family and their partners and whoever will listen about their idea for a podcast, but will never start. Secondly, most podcasts that start, they don't make it to episode 7. Episode 7, they give up because of all of the things that I shared with you earlier. You see the numbers, they're low. It's disheartening. People don't realise the amount of effort that goes in behind the scenes to creating a podcast and putting it out there. So they start and they realise, okay, it's not as easy as I thought. And or all of their shadows come up. They start questioning themselves. Am I good enough? Oh, I feel really vulnerable. Is anybody listening? What are they thinking? All of these things come up and then they stop. Even though it's taken me 5 years to get here, this is episode 48. And that makes Soul Growth Podcast one of the top 1% podcasts. And that is something to celebrate. That is something that I'm here celebrating. I have lightly celebrated podcast birthdays over the years, maybe like 1 or 2. But this 5th one, I lovingly pushed myself to make an effort. Kind of goes back to what I shared with you at the beginning of the year when I shared that we'd made the top 10 podcasts for the inner beauty category on FeedSpot. It's kind of like, grateful, thank you, that's great, keep it moving. I almost didn't celebrate it. And a part of me wanted to do the same thing now. And I was like, no, this is an achievement. I did that. And I did that when it would have been very easy for me not to. It's estimated that there are 3 to 4 million podcasts that are online. 3 to 4 million, but only around 500,000, so 500,000 out of those 3 to 4 million are active. In comparison, YouTube has over 800 million channels. So podcasting, even though it feels like everybody has a podcast, it's still very new. It's still in its infancy. And even though there are so many podcasts out there, so few are actually active. It says that 90% of podcasts never make it past episode 3, and a significant portion stop before episode 7. So if you have a podcast or you've started anything, do you know what? Celebrate your damn self. Give yourself a pat on the back. Because like I was sharing earlier, the amount of people that think about something, talk about something, and never do it, the fact that you're even trying, celebrate that. And yeah, it may not turn out the way that you want or do the things that you wanted to do in the time frame that you wanted it to happen, but it's all soul growth. There's something in it for you. There's something there for you to learn, something there where it will show you one of your shadows, something you need to heal, that you need to release, that you need to let go of. For me, having this podcast, sharing my voice, my energy, my knowledge, my journey with you, that was kind of uncomfortable. Even though we've evolved as far as we have, and it's 2026, we are still wired at our core for survival. We're not naturally wired to be seen and heard by large amounts of people. Think back to the days that we lived in tribes. It was like 20, 30 people in a tribe? I don't know. I don't remember that far back. So then to be putting yourself out there and you don't know who's watching, who's listening, etc., etc. If that feels scary or that feels uncomfortable to you, that's normal. But if you know the thing that you're doing is something that you're just meant to do, like you can't explain it, doesn't always make logical sense, if it makes logical sense at all, but you know you have to do it, then know that you are also supposed to overcome those barriers. When you're faced with that kind of roadblock and you're left to face yourself, it's not a sign for you to turn around and go back. It's a sign for you to take a deep breath, remember who the fuck you are, deal with the thing and work through it and move forward. And you may come up against that thing again and again and again. Hello, it's taken me 5 years to get to this point, to learn these lessons, but the amount of time that it takes you is not the importance. That's just another thing to throw you off track, distract you, and keep you at your current level. But it's about digging deeper within you. It's about cultivating a healthy relationship with yourself, being your own best advocate, and keep on moving forward. And that sounds really easy. Can kind of, make a cute Instagram quote or something out of that. But the reality of it is that it's easier said than done. But just because it's easier said than done doesn't mean that you shouldn't do the thing. What is calling you is a lesson in faith. It's a lesson in trust. Faith and trust in yourself, in your vision, in the message that's been given to you, the vision to create the product or to write the song or write the book or produce the movie, whatever the thing is for you. Even when other people are like, oh, I'm not really sure you should do that. Or, well, it's been a while now and, it hasn't really worked out for you. Maybe you should just know. Those are the times that you need to dig deeper and be there for yourself and be there for yourself in a way of nothing outside of you can shake you, depending on who you are, where you're at in your life, the experiences that you've had up until now. That might be easier said than done, but it doesn't make it any less necessary. You are here for a reason. Your vision has been given to you for a reason, and it's about doing it no matter what. So what if it takes you 10 years instead of 2? That actually reminds me about the Victoria Beckham documentary that I watched last year. By logical standards, she looked crazy. Her business was making loss after loss after loss, year after year after year. To some people, eye-watering amounts of money. To other people, just pocket change. Either way, all those years, she had people around her telling her she's crazy, she'd give up, she'd fold the business, do something else, go back to doing what you're good at. I don't know, whatever it was that people were telling her. But she stayed true to her vision. She stayed true to that calling. And even though it took something like 16 years for her to turn that boat around, for her to turn that ship around, she did it. And now Victoria Beckham, her clothing brand, is hugely successful. I'd say she's a testament to being detached from the timelines. All of our situations are different. All of our circumstances are different. But what we all have in common is the calling, the vision, the goal, the pull for something more, even though you can't always name that. You can't always have a conversation with some people about that because you may not even be able to articulate it yourself. You may not have words for it yourself. Or maybe it's just that you feel like people around you would just feel like you're crazy. That's what we all have in common. And as long as we're all here breathing and we still have that desire inside of us, it's our job, it's our duty to keep on moving forward and allow the thing, whatever it is for you, whatever it is that you're out there creating in the world, allow that to be enough as it is. Trust that it's for your soul growth and trust that it will always reach the people that it's meant to reach when it's meant to reach them. Stop trying to force stuff. I tried to force this podcast many times. Recently, I haven't felt like I've needed to force myself. I've recorded one episode in January. It was like 9 o'clock on a Friday night. I recorded a podcast episode on my birthday. It's not something that I have to fight myself to do anymore. And if there's a week or a time where I feel like I really don't want to do it, but I should, I'm not doing it. Creation was never meant to be fit into a box. It was never meant to be squashed and poked at and analysed and pulled. It's just a natural expression of what comes through you. It comes through you from source. We're all channels. We're all channeling. May not realise it, may not put those words and those labels on it, but those amazing ideas you get that just drop in from what feels like nowhere, hate to break it to you, but they didn't come from you. That's spirit speaking to you. That is the universe speaking to you. You're the channel for those ideas. You're the vessel, and your role is to act on them, to take them and move them forward. So, as it is the 5th year anniversary of Soul Growth Podcast, celebrating that, I also have some more celebrations to share with you. It was really interesting actually. So the feed spot, top 10 spot for Soul Growth, I shared that after a while of sitting on it. And then maybe like a week or two later, I got an email to say that we had also made the top 20 manifestation podcasts on Million Podcasts. And not only that, but we were also recognised as a top 30 growth mindset podcast, also on Million Podcasts. That felt so good. And I had a look at the list and there was some like really big podcasts on some of these lists. And so I was like, I'm going to share that on the 5th anniversary because those are achievements, and I am working on my relationship with celebration, definitely with public celebration. And I recognise that they are things to be celebrated. I am proud. I get to be proud. And they're like nods from spirit to keep going. If something I've shared with you on the podcast has helped you in some way, and if it feels good for you, please leave a review. I get that sometimes things you watch or listen to do genuinely help you in some way. And it doesn't mean that you always want to be leaving reviews or sharing on your social media. And I get that. That's me sometimes. Sometimes it's because stuff is still processing through me and it hasn't formulated in a way that I have the words to put to the shift or the experience that I've had from engaging with that piece of content. Sometimes it's just, I don't really want to. Like it feels like I'm doing it for the sake of it. So the reason that I say that is to say, if you genuinely feel inspired to share on your socials or to leave a review, then please go and do that. But don't do it for the sake of doing it. I only want you to do that if it genuinely feels good and you're like, do you know what? I really enjoy this show. I really like Jade. Let me go and share that love. Those things do help the podcast reach more people who need to hear and be in the conversations that we have here. Thank you for tuning in. and I will see you in the next episode. Big love. Mwah. Thank you for joining me on Soul Growth. There's something in this episode that was meant for you to hear. Whatever it activated within you, trust it, act on it. And remember, it's all soul growth.